and they rush right out, and they are out very quickly.
Oh, I bet.
And they are remarking everything with fresh paint. When you had said that, it kind of clicked. I was like, 2 foot around the hole in white paint.
Yeah.
Because the first thing they're going to come do is start laying a bunch of paint down. Okay, well, so why is your paint on top of the circle that I painted?
Correct.
Interesting.
Yeah.
What is up, Fence fam? Joe Everest, your fence expert. Today I'm sitting down with Alan with Trusted Fencing to talk about his fence story. We talk about everything from how to start a business legitimately, and it's not as hard as people think, and to how to properly respond to damaging or uncovering a underground utility and really trying to cover your bases. That be fair?
That's fair.
Well, Alan, with all that being said, let's get into the interview.
So I've been a union electrician, and I got tired of working on the road, being gone away from the family all the time. And so I started listening to a lot of podcasts. I started stumbling across a few things. I found you on somebody else's podcast.
Sure.
So I started watching YouTube videos, and I started learning the how to do certain things. And my neighbor and I got together, and we needed to get our fence repaired. And the cost to get that fence repaired was pretty high. And I told him, I was like, man, I've kind of been thinking about going out on my own, doing my own thing. And so I convinced him that I had 2 kids in diapers. I didn't have the money to build that fence or pay for that fence, so I could build the fence.
Sure.
So that fence led to the neighbors in the neighborhood seeing, we're kind of a tight-knit community. And so I started building other people's. And I didn't know the AFA. I didn't know ASTM standards.
Right.
I didn't, I was like a landscaper's best. You know what I mean? Like 18-inch holes, like panels. But from there, I found you. I found the fence, community. There's so many great guys out here that's willing to pass their knowledge.
Sure, absolutely.
And that's something that, and I'd looked at multiple different trades and things to do.
Yeah.
But the fence industry was willing to give like so freely. Mm-hmm. And I just enjoyed it. Like I enjoy being outside. I enjoy digging. Like as crazy as it sounds, like I wake up in the mornings, like I don't dread putting my boots on.
That's huge.
And I hated it, like when I had to get up and drive an hour to go to work for a foreman that was just,
hard to deal with. And then like the shops weren't very transparent. So like when work was work, like they'd work a 60, 70 hours a week. Oh, wow.
They didn't care about our family.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But then when layoffs came, they didn't care about our families. There was never like a grace of like, well, we're going to keep them through the holidays.
Sure.
It was like,
when it's over, it's over.
It's over, it's over. Have a good one. So, not that the union was bad to me, because like I had I learned my technical skills from them. I learned a lot of the business.
Sure.
And so
it sounds like it was more transaction based though, more than in relationship.
Right.
Would that be fair?
Yeah, no, very, very fair. So I personally, want to grow a business and build a legacy for my family.
Sure.
And take care of those that are around me and hope that those take care of me as well, because, spearing this thing is not an easy task, as you and I have talked,
the
last 2 days.
Of course.
The building the fence, the getting the job, those are the easy things.
Sure.
Like you can listen to a few books and you can watch some YouTube videos and you can pick up pretty quick a silver tongue to go sell some fence or anything that you want to sell.
Yeah.
But learning the backside and getting the head trash out about, I'm very analytical. I'm very like numbers,
Sure.
And speaking with Holly, and she's like, listen, it's going to be okay. But you need to do these subs and you need to do this, and it's okay to. And so, like that really kind of gave me a peace of mind, like being here.
Well, I think that's something that we talk about on the show a bit, is that there's a massive difference between being able to build an incredible fence and being able to run a successful business.
Yeah.
Like those are two very different hats.
Yeah.
But it sounds like you're kind of diving right into it though, right? Trying to figure out the business, and you're actually taking the time. You came out to do some training, actually taking the time to figure out the business side of it too.
Yeah.
Rather than just unfortunately, in the industry, I think you see some guys that just decide, I'm just going to build fence and the rest of it will sort itself out.
Right.
Unfortunately, it doesn't sort itself out.
Not always for everybody. So, and I stumbled into, a lot of the big box stores.
Yeah.
And then I found out about some of the major suppliers. Mm-hmm. And then I stumbled into them, and they were like, well, who do you work for? And I'm like, nobody. Who have you worked for? Nobody. Like, I've never worked for anybody. Like, I work for me. I build my fences. Like, I build them for my customers. And so that's something that it's been just a great journey. It's like, I don't know how to explain it other than it's been fun. It's been a roller coaster. I've had my highs. Yeah. I've had my lows.
Yep.
Whenever you get out there on the job and you sell it, you're like, oh my God, I sold it, right? So there's your first ride up the roller coaster. Yep. And then you get out there building the fence, and then you run across something that you've never experienced. Uh-huh. You find that first utility. And so I was trained, and so I knew how to call Oki one call.
Sure.
I knew how to. Now, I didn't know when I hit one. I didn't know exactly what to do. And I had to struggle through that.
Sure.
But because I had the training, because I did do the one call, it wasn't properly marked. That first one wasn't my fault. And I got to have a talk with an investigator. And the investigator said, you do this and this and this. And because I did that, and that, it saved me $6,000.
Very
and that
good.
was my very first fence.
So let's talk about that, though, because I think this is good information to get out there. Can we talk about, so you and I have talked about this, but I think it'd be good for everyone else to hear it. So you hit a utility.
Yep.
That wasn't marked.
Correct.
Or wasn't marked correctly.
Yeah, right? No, it wasn't marked.
It wasn't marked at all.
It wasn't marked at all.
So what were your next steps in that? Can you walk us through what your process was?
So, when I first started the business, I was smart enough that I went down, I got an EIN, I got my insurance.
Sure. Yep.
I got a bond.
Yeah.
I got my license. Many people in my area don't carry a license. They don't carry a bond.
Yeah.
And so I thought to myself, what's the worst case scenario? Like, I just started this. Like, if I owe the money, I owe the money. Those are the hiccups of doing business. But I told these people that I'm a trusted contractor.
Yeah.
Trusted fencing. You can trust me. I'm going to take care of you. That's the whole brand, is like trust.
Yeah. It's
and
huge.
So the first thing I did is walked up to the door, knocked on the door, because the lady worked from home, and I was like, oh my God, she's like without internet, and she, so I said, do you have power, or do you have internet? And she said, yeah, I still have internet. There's no problem. So I was like, okay, there's first thing.
Right.
So then I get on the phone and I call Oki one call, and they told me, they were like, what's your responsibility to call the utility companies? And I said, well, I don't know whose coax cable this is, or fiber, like.
Well, and that's why I called you guys.
Yeah, that's why I called you guys, is because I hit it with an auger. Like, I did what I was supposed to do. And so I had to then call AT&T, call Cox, call the guys. Finally, after being on the phone for like all day, because everybody wanted to sell me a service.
Right.
Nobody wanted to give me a line to talk to technical support to, and then technical support wanted to run a diagnostic. And I'm like, I don't have a modem. I don't have, I'm out here in a field.
Yeah, I'm looking at a utility in a hole.
Yeah. So after I went through all of the headaches of that, then they're starting to point the finger at me. Well, you should have been this. You should have done this. And I'm like, whoa. Like, slow down, calm down. And they told me, well, we're going to have to send out an investigator. And I'm thinking, are you serious? Like, they do this for every, I know Chuck in the truck ain't calling nobody.
Sure,
I know,
yeah.
He's packing his tools up and running down the road.
Oh, he's gone. Yeah, he's going to finish the fence and get out of there.
Yeah, if he finishes the fence.
Well, fair point.
You know? And so, so the investigator told me, he said, it's wise to take pictures. It's wise to take video. It's wise. And the homeowner had surveillance. And I just so happened, because I'd, been so studious on studying different business tactics and everything, I had video on my phone.
Sure.
So I'd walked the fence line previously. So I had video showing that there was nothing marked in that area.
Yep.
And that saved my banking. Like, right when the investigator came out, I was like shaking. I was like, oh man. So I showed it to him, and he was like, so what are we, he's like, what are we doing? Like,
He's like, why am I here?
I'm like, up here was my anxiety. and he's like, it's another Tuesday for him. You know what I mean?
Sure.
And so he told me to spray paint 2 foot around it with white paint, take pictures whenever I damage it. Yep. And that way I have pictures, I have markings, And so if the utility company sends back out the one-call guys, or
Yeah.
the one-call guys come back out, because there's a damage ticket now,
Yep.
they can't go back with their paints and mark it and make it look like it was.
So that's, in our area, that's the first thing that happens.
Yeah.
Is when you call up a dig up, right, that you had damaged or exposed an underground utility. That's the first thing that happens.
Yeah.
So there's a company in our area that marks for these companies, right? It's just an independent marking company, locating company. Well, the first thing they do, so they get the dig up and they rush right out, and they are out very quickly.
Oh, I bet.
Which is strange because there's never enough time to mark the yards. But if there's a dig up, Johnny on the spot.
Oh, yeah.
And they are remarking everything with fresh paint.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a fair point. When you had said that, it kind of clicked. I was like, 2 foot around the hole in white paint.
Yeah.
Because the first thing they're going to come do is start laying a bunch of paint down. Okay, well, so why is your paint on top of the circle that I painted?
Correct.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And the photo documentation, the video is obviously huge. But when you had said that point, I was like, we need to talk about this, because I think I think it's a great tip for you guys watching out there that, so the steps you took were, you videoed prior to digging.
Correct.
You did your job walk all around the perimeter. Here's what we're doing, which is good for content production anyway, because then you can also do like a before and after video and that sort of thing. But when you damaged it, you then probably took pictures of the exposed utility and all that, and then you painted it.
Yeah.
So I think those are some pretty pertinent steps on taking care of, and basically covering your bases.
Yeah, no, for sure. And like I said, if I'd caused the damage and it was my fault,
sure,
I will own up and I'll pay for it.
Yeah.
Because that's just the cost of doing business. That's the risk that we take every day as business owners, is that we gamble. Are we going to make a profit or not?
Sure.
We're taking on this project. We're doing it for this price. And so, and I didn't know I was technically doing it to cover my bacon right away.
Sure.
I was doing it more for like you said, the before and
for
after
content
photos,
production.
And I was also telling like my insurance guy, like, I was taking these before and after videos, trying to get some pictures out of it so I can start kind of building something. And he was like, that's amazing, man. Like, I'm going to start telling my other clients that's doing this kind of stuff, like, to just do that.
Yeah, document the process.
Everybody has a smart device in their pocket.
Oh, yeah.
Everybody's got 200 plus gigs of memory. And, you don't have to store it forever.
Right.
But.
Well, and there's programs out there. We happen to use Company Cam, not a sponsored video. It's just who I like to use. You can just upload your videos to that platform, right. And then if you need to delete them off your phone to clear up space or what have you, they still live somewhere,
right,
to where that's easily accessible. And on Company Cam, you can also do video too.
Yep.
So you could do those even if you don't have a bunch of memory. You can still have a space for your photos and videos that are stored by, client name, location, all that. Anyway.
Yep.
But documenting is huge.
Oh, it is 100%. I mean, well, that's telling your story right there.
Sure.
I go out and I have an iPad, and so when I'm trying to sell that next job, having that device with me, in them high def photos, it's like, this is my work. This is what I've done. This is, this is my story. This is my.
Well, and they can be shared on social media. They can be shared across all the platforms out there. I think one problem a lot of folks have is they don't create enough content.
Oh, I agree. And I'm one of them. Like, I generate content and I send it over to the gentleman that takes care of my website.
Yeah.
And, but I've got to get better.
Sure.
Sure. I've got to get better.
I don't think you can ever produce too much content, in terms of raw content. Now, I see a lot of people that maybe put too much out there into the social interwebs, but in terms of creating raw content, you can't do enough,
right?
Or you can't do too much, just because it's easier for your website guy if you just give him a mountain of content and said cherry pick what you want out of this.
Right.
It's always better to do that than to only give them 4 or 5 pieces of content and say, well, here's what you got.
They were laughing at me at first because like I'd send them over a couple videos or a couple pictures, and then next thing you know, I'd be like, you know how it is. You're working all the time, and then next thing you know, you have a couple minutes of free time, and then like I just like bomb him with like 100 photos or something. I'm like,
sure,
pick from here. You know what I mean? And I'm like kind of cherry picking through like what I like.
Yeah.
And then I uploaded all the rest of them to like Google, and so.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and that's kind of our process, is that we'll have a cloud base. We're on Google, so Google Drive folder just for all of the project content, pictures, video, and then we share that with our web guy so that if they need more content, they can just go in there and pick from it any given day. But anyway, it works really nicely when you produce a ton of content. So like all of our guys produce content now, they're taking pictures and videos. But I thought that was something that was pertinent for this group to hear.
Yeah.
Your process for when you do, because it's going to happen. You're gonna unearth or damage an underground utility.
Yeah.
It will happen.
No, it does.
So what's most important is how you handle it. Like you said, we pay our fair share of damaged utilities. If it's marked and we hit it and it's within that 2-foot margin of error, it's ours.
Yeah.
We own that damage for sure. But the flip side of that coin's fair too. If it's not marked or it's marked incorrectly, if we're more than 2 foot outside that marking, we're going to take steps to kind of cover our bases as well, because that's the gamble. That's the risk. Right?
That is the risk.
So tell us a little bit about let's talk a little bit about you getting started. There's a lot of guys out there that watch channels like these and are trying to learn before they get started. What advice would you have for the guy that's watching or the gal that's watching, hasn't pulled the trigger yet, but is almost ready to?
Well, first I would say I personally followed Dave Ramsey for a little bit.
Yeah.
So I got myself in a position where I didn't have to live paycheck to paycheck.
There you go.
And I had the money set aside. So like before I took a layoff from the union, I already was kind of dabbling in it, playing, doing side jobs. Mm-hmm. So I had some work lined up. And then I had the finances behind me. I didn't have to go borrow $10,000 to get started. I didn't have to go borrow money. And then, I would, if you're just getting started, I would look at some of like the big box stores and go talk to their pro desks.
Sure. Yep.
And learn some of their programs. I participate with a particular one, and their credit card option gives me free tools. Basically, I purchase a bundle of wood, I buy X amount of dollars in return, I get a credit in the store, and so then I take that credit and I look and see what tool I need.
Sure.
And so it's like a win-win.
Yeah.
And so those things have really helped me, and it helps like when you can buy those things that you don't think you need.
Yeah.
Because like when I first started, I had like an Impact, I had like a cheap pair of like postal diggers from like Walmart.
Yeah.
And now I've got like 2 little beavers, I've got a rhino, and so like that, the faster you can install, of course, the more efficient you are, the more you can produce.
Yep.
And so you can then choose to spend that time wisely, and you can either produce as much as you can, or you can produce as much as you want, and then you can then start scaling back and working on other key areas.
Yeah.
So, getting an Audible account, that has done me wonders. Sometimes I feel like I consume too much because it is easy to put the AirPods in and you go start digging holes and you turn on a book, and I can get lost in a book, and I'm listening and I'm trying to take all these notes and I'm trying to implement this, that, and the other. But at least I'm putting effort into implementing systems in place and not just trying to go from the day-to-day operation and just trying to figure this stuff out.
Yeah, just kind of wing it.
So my first year I did over 6 figures, and
nice.
And I was I didn't work 8 months. Which is, for starting out, not having a base really.
Yeah.
But getting out there, shaking hands, and doing one fence in one area, people are paying attention.
Sure.
And so it is really easy while you're there because they're watching.
Yeah.
It's easy to sell that next fence job while you're there.
Absolutely.
And so, getting to know your numbers, like knowing numbers, playing with numbers. You don't actually have to sell this job for X amount of dollars.
Sure.
Right? But play with those numbers. Put it down on paper.
Yeah, what would it do if you did?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so find your break evens. What does it cost for me to go out and actually work today, and what is it going to cost? What does it cost to start the truck? What does it cost to, buy the materials?
Sure.
To do 100-foot of fence.
Yep.
Just figure it out. Get really comfortable on the fly working with, I was taught assemblies.
Yeah.
So, a post, brackets, cap. What does that cost you with a bag of concrete? So that way
Yeah. By the section, it would cost me.
By the section, it'll cost
X.
you this much. Get to know, like your minimums.
Yeah.
I don't want to do Chuck in the Truck's job.
Sure.
But if I do, I'm licensed and everything, I'm going to charge for that.
Yeah.
And so I can't start my truck and go out for $100 a day or $150 a day. Like it would be better time spent working on a system to make my business more efficient, keeping it transparent.
Yep.
And so that's where I would tell people to start is the building the fence and selling the jobs. In my personal opinion, that's the easy side of the business. It really is. It's learning the back end.
Yep.
Learning with QuickBooks. QuickBooks will let you like download it for like 30 days free.
Sure. Yep.
Go in there, destroy a QuickBooks, right? And that's something I didn't do, and I wish I would have. But like, make a fake email address, go in there, destroy a QuickBooks, delete it,
and figure out.
It ain't gonna do nothing to nobody.
Sure.
But by doing so, then when you start your real QuickBooks, I let my QuickBooks set for like 8 months. I paid for it every month, and I was intimidated by it.
Yeah.
And I have a software that I run on my phone that's really easy. I can put my numbers in there. I can put my percentages in there. I can make changes on the fly. Nice. And so, I didn't really play with my QuickBooks, but I've always been told like you need QuickBooks or you need some kind of accounting
or
software.
some version of that.
Yeah. But so that's where, as a tradesman, the business side of it is the back end is probably been my hardest challenge.
Well, it's probably the most intimidating part.
Oh, 100%.
Right. Like you can figure out how to build a fence.
Right.
You can get it built. Now, is it going to be the greatest looking fence in the neighborhood? Probably not for your first fence, but you can figure it out.
Right.
On the operations side, that's a little bit harder to figure out.
Correct.
We were talking yesterday. Yeah, you were talking with Holly about the bookkeeping and the QuickBooks and all that. It's hard to just figure that out.
Yeah.
And listen, I'm guilty of it. I ran our QuickBooks account for quite a while, and then Holly came on, and she had to do a little bit of fixing because I was trying to figure it out, and I was not figuring it out correctly.
I understand.
Let's talk for a minute. So in the very beginning, you took the absolute right steps. You got registered with the state, which got you with the government, so you got EIN number. Mm-hmm. You got insured and bonded.
Yep.
How hard was that process?
Easy.
Was it?
Oh, yeah. So, I went down to the Secretary of State and I said, hey, I want to start a business. And they said, fill out this one sheet of paper, $125. I said, is that it? And they said, that's it.
Yeah.
They said, we'll run the name, and if nobody has a name, it's yours.
Well, and if you're not in an area that has a Secretary of State's office, you can, at least here in Missouri, you can go online.
Yeah.
And you find that form online, you fill it out, you put in a credit card number, and
boom.
Within 2 minutes,
yeah,
you are established as a business. Now, there's more to it on the back end.
Right.
So as the business grows, you want to make sure you have a lawyer that drafts up, operating agreements and that sort of thing. But in the beginning, the first step to getting that EIN, 5 minutes?
Yeah,
maybe?
It's 5 minutes. And an EIN, and if people don't know, EIN is basically like the business's social security.
Yep.
So, as the business grows and as you're paying your bills and everything, that's how you get to where you can do bigger, larger projects is because you can go to financial institutions and say, hey, I've got these projects and and instead of running it all on your personal, line of credit.
Yep.
And there's so many guys that go out there and just destroy their lives because they get over their heads and
yeah, absolutely. Well, and yeah, they just get overburdened, and it's a fair point to say you want to keep your finances separate from personal and professional anyway.
Yep.
You want to go buy a house, but you've been running all this through your personal. Well, now all of a sudden your debt to income looks
crazy,
way out of line.
Right.
So keeping it separate is absolutely the right first step. 5 minutes gets you an EIN with the Secretary of State's website. So, for example, we live in Missouri. I would literally Google Missouri Secretary of State, register a business, and it will pull up the page. This is actually what we did when we started our new business, the Ozark Wireworks. 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Maybe. 5 minutes in a credit card is all it really took. So the next step was you got insured.
Got insured.
Walk me through that process. What was that like?
So I just started calling around, and I'm like, hey, I started a fence business. And they would say, well, what do you need? I don't know.
What do I need?
What do I need? And you have to be careful. I mean, just like anything, they're going to try to sell you, this, that, and the other. And I handpicked what I thought I needed as a business owner. I don't have any employees, so I don't need workman's comp right now.
Right.
Not yet.
Until you hire your first one.
Once I hire my first employee, then that's whenever, and so, getting to know people and having conversations with them and letting them know where you're at, that seems to go a far ways. Because I personally like to deal with the smaller businesses because they're more tailor-made. Yep. And so the gentleman that's doing my insurance now, he knows where I'm at, and I have conversations with him. And so we start setting things up. And also by doing so, he can then tell me, like, to do workman's comp is going to be X amount of dollars. I can start planning for this now.
Sure. Yeah.
Start trying to build some funds up. So that way, whenever I do kick off, it's not like a shock.
Well, and that goes into knowing your numbers too.
Yeah.
So you start charging customers as if this expense was already built in.
Correct.
So that when the day does come where you do hire employees and you're ready for work comp, you already have a bit of a nest egg set aside. Because typically, and this could vary by company and by state, but typically for new contractors, they ask for a pretty large lump sum up front.
Yeah.
The reason being, in the past, they've been burned a little bit where guys will sign up for it to get the letter, to get the certificate of insurance, and then not pay any more.
Right.
They paid one premium, got the letter, and then they're done for the year. So insurance companies have caught on to this little trick, so usually a lump sum.
My guy asked for a credit card or debit card.
Okay.
And I told him, I said, I don't have a ton of money. And I said, I might be in business 6 months. I might be in business for 65 years.
Yeah.
I don't know yet. I can't tell you the future.
Yeah.
I said, but, I mean, here's my credit. I let him run my credit. I said, I pay my bills. Mm-hmm. So what can we do? And that's where the smaller, tailor-made, and he said, I feel comfortable with doing this. It seems like you're pretty, good on your head. And so I'm like, okay, well, listen.
Nice.
So after getting the insurance, I called the cities that I wanted to work in my area, and I asked them, because I'm a licensed journeyman electrician, so I got that, and I'm working on my contractor's license for electrician.
Okay.
So I asked them, what does it take to do work in your area? Mm-hmm. And so I just started having conversations with inspectors. Now, I've had that rapport from being an electrician.
Sure.
And so I was pretty comfortable with that. And a lot of them had told me, just do this, this, and this. Or, we have a test. And every test that I've taken has been an open book test. And they'll send me the book, and they'll send me the link. I can study it, and then, I take their test. And, I mean, it's not hard.
Sure.
It's just they want to make sure that you're competent.
Right. That you can understand instructions and follow instructions.
Don't
that
block stop signs. Don't build fences in front of intersections.
Sure.
And so, it's having those conversations with those kinds of people also will open doors that you might not think of.
Yeah.
And so when they see that you're trying to do things the right way, that's been profitable and very helpful in my business.
Sure. So reaching out to the different cities, asking about business licenses is always, you never want to start off on the bad foot, the wrong foot, where an inspector does drive by and sees a new fence going up and says, wait a minute, I'll look at my laptop and see, no permit pulled.
Yeah.
Maybe there's a name on the truck, no business license.
Yep.
This is going to come to a stop really quick.
Yeah.
And then they're going to be suspicious moving forward, right?
100%.
Like, are you trying to fly under the radar? Are you trying to not play by the rules?
Right.
So then all of a sudden the scrutinization gets really tight. They really start looking at everything. Starting it off on the right foot would be checking with the city, getting a business license. Yep. You actually took an additional step, reached out to the inspectors and said, what are you looking for?
Right. Oh,
When you're in our area, some municipalities do inspect fences, some don't.
Right.
And that probably varies state to state, city to city.
They don't inspect our area.
Okay.
So, they want their permit money, but
Sure.
they don't really necessarily come out and inspect the holes after you dug them. Or,
Got it.
They just want to be on file that you're doing the work.
Sure. Well, and that way, if there is a problem, they know who to give a call. Yeah. Got it.
So, for when I first started off, I spent, I think, $100 on a website to get business cards made right away.
Yeah. Okay.
And I also got magnets for my truck.
Nice.
And those couple magnets are still on my truck to this day. I haven't got it fully wrapped yet. You know,
Sure.
I don't have the budget for it.
I hear
I'm
that.
working towards it.
I hear that.
But I've picked up a lot of work just driving down the road.
Yeah.
You know, they'll see my truck and I'll get phone calls in traffic. You know, hey,
Sure.
I need some fence work.
You know where I get stopped a lot is at gas stations.
Yeah.
I'll be filling up and somebody will walk by and go, oh, you do fences. You know what? I've been meaning to talk to somebody about a fence.
Oh, yeah.
Well, let's talk about your fence then. Yeah, it's surprising how effective at advertising vehicle decals or wraps or whatever, just getting your name on the vehicle, how effective that is.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I'm planning on implementing door hangers, you know, here in the near future. And there's a few other things I'm starting to look at, you know, and just because I'm at that point where I'm ready to grow and I'm ready to start taking more volume.
Gotcha. Very good, very good. So when I'm asking about how hard it is to set up an EIN and register with the state and how hard it is to get insurance, I think a lot of folks are intimidated by that process. They've done it a few times on the weekends and in the evenings, and they said, well, I don't know that I'm really ready to take that step because it seems like a monumental step. But how hard was it? Just start to finish, getting set up, getting insured, getting bonded. How hard was it?
I mean, I sat down and thought about it before. You know what I mean? I could have taken a layoff, and I could have been building fences on the side, making that cash and hiding it, stowing it away, and then what?
Right.
You know, I can't go buy nothing with it.
Right.
Because then they're going to be like, well, where'd all this additional
Where'd the money
income
come from?
Mm-hmm. So then you have that anxiety if you want to do something like that. And so I just thought to myself, you know, I don't want to be limited to, right? Yeah. If I'm going to go out and put this much hard work in, I want to be limitless. I want to be able to enjoy the cash I make.
Sure.
You know, so it took me like a day to get set up for the EIN, the bond, the talking to the city. And again, I kind of already had it already pre-planned.
Sure.
So I already had a goal in mind.
Right.
The insurance took me about a day. When I started my business, it was March 22nd, 2021, and I was up in operations that week. Like all that stuff was like good to go.
Well, and I think that's the point I'm trying to make is that a lot of folks will have in their head that this takes a long time, that it's really hard to get through the paperwork and anything.
Not that hard. I didn't need to go talk to no attorneys. I didn't have to like jump through any hoops.
Sure.
Now, if you have the time and you have the funds to start off with an attorney and an accountant, by God, like do so.
You'll be that much further ahead.
You'll be that much further ahead. Like I feel like I'm pretty far ahead considering. Yeah. But I look back now and I'm thinking, how much further could I be?
Sure.
You know,
that's a fair point.
And I'm trying to learn the side of like, how do I take on my first employee? Like, you know, now I've got marketing, I've got sales, I've got estimating, I've got install, you know, I take on that first employee. Now I've got HR, you know? And so it's like, I'm adding another hat. And that's before I even start delegating anything else, because you can't just bring somebody on right away and like turn them over with a company truck. And
right.
Have a good day.
There's a good amount of training and trust that gets built.
There's a lot of trust and a lot of training, because somebody that knows how to build fence might build fence, but they might not build the fence I want them to build.
Sure. Yeah.
And so I want to make sure that when I tell that customer that we are going to come out and we're going to build it this method and this way, I don't want to find out later that they've been cutting the tops off with a bandsaw and they're not setting to depth and they're not.
It actually got built that way.
It got built the way that I told that homeowner we were going to build it.
Sure.
And so, you know, and I just want to carry on that trust with the client. Like that is my biggest thing, is the trust.
Sure. Absolutely. It's in the name.
It is 100%.
Very good. Alan, thank you so much for your time for this interview, for sitting down and really going through this. I know we could have talked for another probably couple hours on everything.
We could have talked about a thousand things, I'm sure. I am so grateful for you giving me the opportunity to come,
of course,
learn from you, and giving me the chance to, you know, you put the competition out there and I got to win, and the hospitality you've given. You actually opened the doors and said, anything you want to know, anything you want to learn,
absolutely.
I'm here, and you have been here with me the whole time talking, you know, and it's just been an amazing trip.
I appreciate you guys making the time, because I know it's a significant investment in time and money to get here and spend time away from the business. So I think it's a fair trade, I think.
I appreciate it.
Alan, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Guys, for now, I'm Joe Everest, a fence expert, reminding you that good fences make good neighbors. And I'll see you next time.